And I just want to say, please help us find Taylor. Everybody, senators, governors, people, and just donate to the cause.
Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn here, and I wanted to give you an update on Taylor Casey. So over the last few weeks, the story about finding Taylor Casey has led our Queer News podcast. As far as I'm concerned, this is the top story. Until further notice, Taylor is a comrade. I can't even tell you how long I've known Taylor. I mean, Taylor has just always been in community, doing community, being who she is, which has always been this bright light, period, wherever she has walked into. Just a beautiful, bright light. And when I started the Cube, the next iteration of my work here in the world, she was reaching out to me. She wanted to curate podcasts. She wanted to raise money for me. That's what Taylor wanted to do. And it is incredibly hard to report on people that you know. I'm reminded about Elise. I think about Elise in this moment so much because she was also a bright light, you know? Let me just take a minute and clear up my face and I'll be back. Okay, let's get into this, all right? I want to go in chronological order as given by these press releases because I think it's just incredibly important to just outline what we know from where we started to today, okay? So one of my dear friends, who was also one of the lead organizers for the Find Taylor Casey, and Taylor's mom would say the Find Taylor Casey squad, okay? She's one of the lead organizers, and she made a post about Taylor missing. And I was like, is this real? Is this real? And so the first press release actually came out on June 20th. It was titled, Chicago Woman Missing in the Bahamas. Taylor Casey, 41, disappeared from a yoga retreat on Paradise Island on June 19th. It's called the Sivananda Ashram Yoga Retreat. It's very popular. Taylor was going for a month. She was going for a month and she wanted her yoga certification. Okay. She wanted to be a trainer, a teacher. And that's where she was going to get that experience. She had already been there for a couple of weeks and she was in communication with her mother about how well it was going and also how hard it was. Okay. There's different levels at this retreat center at different price points. The one Taylor could afford was a tent. And I saw a video of what this area looked like. There was just tent after tent after tent. And that's where they would stay. And it was the most affordable option. And honestly, I mean, you're at the beach, right? You're in the Bahamas. And for Taylor, that was going to be sufficient. And so that's where she was staying. And we know there was a person named Hannah who actually called Miss Seymore and told her that Taylor was missing. In this statement on June 24th, Ms. Seymore says, we are deeply concerned for Taylor's safety and well-being. We love Taylor and we want her home. It was also outlined to us in this press release that she had been studying yoga for 15 years. I mean, this was her thing, okay? And she wanted to bring the knowledge that she gained from this certification back home and empowering folks to center themselves through yoga practice. Her mother also said, I believe Taylor is in danger because she was eager to share her yoga retreat experience with others upon her return. Taylor would never disappear like this. All right. So that was on June 24th. Then the next press release came out on July 1st. And this one was a lot more in depth. It had a lot more updates because this came out after Miss Seymore and her friend Emily and a few others went to the Bahamas to put their feet on the ground and talk to officials there. This press release says, and was titled, Missing Black Woman's Family Asks for the U.S. Government's Support. Okay. At this point, Taylor had been missing for more than a week. And now her family seeks community support to pressure public officials to take action, citing serious gaps in the investigation they observed on the ground. All right. So Emily is the friend that we've seen in partnership with Miss Seymore, all right? And Emily said this, let me make this clear to the U.S. media, the public, and government officials. We are not satisfied. We are not satisfied with how this investigation has been handled thus far, and what we learned and observed during our time meeting with authorities and ashram leaders is disturbing and infuriating. They went to get answers and they got no answers. Okay, family. And when they went also to retrieve Taylor's belongings, and let me tell y'all what they retrieved: her training course book, her Bible, a picture of Jesus Christ, Louise Hay affirmation cards, her yoga mat, books titled "We Do This Until We Free Us" and "All the Black Girls Are Activists," her essential oils, toiletries, her sketch pad, paintings, yoga pants, flip-flops, and t-shirts. Miss Seymore said the scene appeared largely unprocessed by local authorities, and that was deeply unsettling for her, as it would be for anybody. So it looked like nobody had even been there to investigate to see anything about Taylor, who she was as a person. I mean, wouldn't you start with where she was sleeping? Emily, her friend, said, it became apparent to us when we met with Sarvananda ashram leaders that they were struggling to keep a linear and cohesive narrative regarding Taylor's disappearance. When they arrived, the press release tells us that the ashram retreat told them not to talk to any guests, not to disturb the guests because they were there for a retreat, not prioritizing Taylor's safety at all, but prioritizing their bottom line in tourism, period. Miss Seymore says that they had to beg. But then when someone did talk to them, or people talked to them, they did feel like they were told what to say and what not to say, as if they were coerced or told. They said that it felt like it was a cult at this retreat center, okay? Something else that was quite disturbing when they arrived is that they expected to see missing persons posters, around the retreat center, that they would be around at the Atlantis Resort, which is further down the beach. But alas, there were no missing persons posters. And people at the retreat center didn't even know she was missing. Literally, they talked to people and they were like, we had no idea and no one informed us. And people left because of that. They left. One quote in this press release that really caught me from Ms. Seymore said, I am not satisfied with it. I feel like the police did the bare minimum and I need them to act like it's their child missing. And isn't that our hope? That if something like this was to happen to our family member, that those in the power to investigate and to figure out what's going on would treat our family member as if it was their family member. Like, that is the mandate, right? That's what you called to do when you put on that uniform, took that oath, right? Is that you were going to treat everybody like they were your own. Emily says that it was explained to them several times that the only involvement is with the legal attaché from the U.S. Embassy in Nassau in observing the investigation. She's not leading the investigation, and to their knowledge was not advising investigators, right? And so when the Bahamas police force says that the FBI is involved and U.S. government's involved, they're saying they're not. In fact, the Bahamian police force has to invite the FBI to get involved. And the person that they are claiming is involved is actually just observing. They have no rights to this investigation. They can't give any recommendations, really. That's frowned upon, all these things. So really, they just feel like they haven't done anything. And they just thought nobody was going to care that Taylor was missing. And in this press release, we also find out that the Bahamian police force did find Taylor's phone, but they didn't find it because they're incredible. They found it because Taylor's niece was able to ping Taylor's phone to the middle of the ocean. And so they took her coordinates and her ping and found Taylor's phone. We also understand that the Atlantis Resort, which is a really big resort in the Bahamas, has CCTV footage, right? And they were given a description of Taylor and they reviewed the footage, but the police force never reviewed the footage. So what are y'all doing? Now, something else that we learned in this press release was that the lead manager of the ashram yoga retreat said that Monday before Taylor's disappearance, there was an unidentified man with a walkie-talkie seen walking the same platform where Taylor's tent was located. And that's not all, okay? One of the retreat's participants, who Taylor's team did speak to, disclosed that she was approached while sitting on the beach by a stranger the same day Taylor disappeared, or the same day Taylor was last seen. The unidentified man was wearing a Celtics baseball cap and dressed in all black. He claimed he was from Chicago, which is interesting, and was interested in taking a yoga class. He proceeded to follow her onto the property. Now, I thought that was interesting because Taylor's from Chicago, and it's kind of random to say that that's where you're from, especially outside of the United States. I'd imagine, like, when I travel, most people identify with New York. Most people identify with LA. You know, very few people really identify with Chicago. People are aware, and people who travel love the city, okay? But it's very odd to me that this person wearing the Celtics baseball cap and all black tried to associate themselves with the same city Taylor was from, which makes me think that she may have met him. You know, she was there for 2 weeks enjoying the Bahamas while doing this yoga retreat. I wonder if they met at some point where he would try to align himself with her in this way and maybe trigger this person to think, oh, maybe Taylor knows him. And one of the stark things about this particular press release was this section that talks about Miss Seymore and the team that went leaving the Bahamas early because they became concerned for their own safety and changed their flights because of the conditions that they observed and the narrative control at the ashram yoga retreat. They felt unsafe. They feared for their lives. Literally, that's what they've said. The press release kept it real cute, but in subsequent interviews, even the most recent press release that took place on Taylor's birthday, they said that they feared for their lives. And so that is why they came home early. Miss Seymore said, I had to return home without her. This is every mother's worst nightmare. I felt an urgent need to return because without U.S. government support, we may never find out what happened to my Taylor. Now, family, the most recent press release came out on July 9. And this one was titled, Community Urgently Seeks Help Finding Beloved Black Trans Advocate Missing Since June 20th. In this one, Miss Seymore says, my child has been missing for almost 3 weeks. My family, friends, and I are distraught. I am pleading with everyone to call your elected officials and demand the FBI lead this investigation and bring her home safe and sound. My dear friend Jackie Boyd said this, too often our Black, trans, and gender expansive siblings go missing with little to no attention in the media or investigation by authorities. We are extremely concerned for Taylor's safety and need your support in keeping the pressure on American and Bahamian authorities. Now, this press release was the first one that mentioned Taylor's trans advocacy and the fact that Taylor herself is trans. And that is not something that had been said previously. And I understand why, because you just don't know how people are going to perceive her and the investigation. They will dismiss it. They would have dismissed it even more than they dismissed it and currently are dismissing it. Do you know what I mean? And for their own safety of going over there. So it was something that they did not disclose before this most recent press release. And even though I knew, and local Chicago media, you know, who are in the community also knew, it is not our place to say. It just is not our place to say. So here's the deal. The call to action is to implore the Bahamian authorities to get the FBI involved. As I'm recording this on July 15th, Taylor was reported missing on June 20th. We are almost a month out. And that in and of itself is scary. And so other things outside of that press release, right? On Thursday, July 11th was Taylor's 42nd birthday. And so to honor Taylor, the organizers, her family and friends held a press conference here in Chicago. I wish I could have gone. I had a conflict, and I'm a one-person team these days. So I received the report. I watched the press conference, and it's just breaks your heart. And so I'm going to include a couple of clips at the end of this podcast. But here are other things that you need to know. The Royal Bahamas Police Force announced last Tuesday that Michael Johnson, who is the chief superintendent, lead investigator on Taylor's case, had been put on what they call guarded leave, which is the same thing here as administrative leave or suspension, for corruption. Corruption. What? So when Miss Seymore and Emily and the team talk about this eerie feeling that they got when they got to the Bahamas and how it felt odd at the ashram yoga retreat, well, I believe them. I believe them. The person leading the investigation was corrupt. They found some sketchy voice notes connected to gang activity. The family also talks about how the updates they've received have been the exact same. There hasn't been any new information and no new leads. I want to leave you with a couple of video clips from the most recent press conference. One of Channyn Lynne Parker, the CEO of Brave Space Alliance here in Chicago. One of Emily, her good friend, who has been right there next to Miss Seymour's side this entire time. And then Miss Seymore herself. And family, if you can do nothing else, if you can call these senators and press them, because Taylor absolutely deserves to be home.
I will start off by describing Taylor in 3 words, and that is first, daughter of Colette. Secondly, friend of everybody who is behind you and in front of you today. And third, fighter. What we know above all is that wherever Taylor is, she is fighting. And above all, she desperately wants to get home. Taylor wants to get back to the community that we so know and call our beloved community. I was approached yesterday and somebody asked me, Channyn, what are your thoughts when Taylor went missing? And my thought was, again, here we are again. We have Black women who are constantly being deprioritized, particularly on the city's south and west sides. We have women globally across the world, more narrowly speaking, trans women whose lives are being discarded, who are being thought of as nothing but an afterthought. And again, here we are having to apply pressure when it should come as second nature and instinct to do what you know to be right. And that is to center the humanity of an individual who right now is missing and needs to be home. Again, we continue to send a resounding message across the waters, globally, locally, and nationally, that Black women do not matter. Black trans women do not matter, but we're here to say right now, emphatically, resoundingly, and loudly, that we reject that Black women matter, that Black trans women matter, and we will not forget this situation. While Taylor may be missing, she is not forgotten, right? So we're gonna continue to apply pressure. We're going to continue to hold our elected officials locally, nationally, and globally to accountability, and we will bring Taylor home. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
It's been 3 weeks since Taylor's been missing, and one thing is abundantly clear. The only reason why anything is happening is because we're making it happen. Because everybody here, everybody standing behind me, Colette, all of you in the media, we're pushing this investigation forward. As soon as we set foot on that island, something didn't feel right. We knew things were off. We went from the airport right to the Criminal Investigation Department of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And we were met with a photo op, with a press conference. We weren't met with caring detectives that wanted to give us an update on where our loved one was. They couldn't keep details straight. They gave us misinformation, and then they tried to push us out. And so we are demanding answers. We're not gonna let this go. We're not gonna allow them to just push us to the side. I think they thought that that's what was going to happen. I think they thought no one would care about Taylor. I think they thought that Taylor could disappear and we would just put our hands up and say, oh, what a tragedy. But that's not what we're going to do. We're not stopping until we get answers, and we want to hear from them. They said tomorrow, and that's when we want to hear from them. And if we don't have answers, we're going to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And that's why we're calling on the senators, Dick Durbin, Tammy Duckworth, to put pressure on the State Department, to tell the Royal Bahamian Police Force to get the FBI down there right now and find Taylor. And we need all of your help to do that. So call the senators. Please keep showing up. We appreciate it. And we will find Taylor.
Because we need a lawyer and a PI to go over to the Bahamas and help us to find Taylor. And I just want the senators to light a fire under the people in the Bahamas' feet so they can correctly search for my child and help to bring my child home. And that's it. That's all I have to say right now.